Americans spend more than $113 billion a year on lottery tickets. That is more than they spend on movies, video games, music, and spectator sports combined. On a bet where the odds of a major jackpot run around 1 in 300 million, worse odds than being struck by lightning twice. And yet every day, millions of careful, rational people hand over cash for that exact bet. This is not a story about stupidity, it is a story about wiring. The same bias that sells lottery tickets inflated GameStop to $483 a share, put zero-day options on roughly half of all trading volume in the biggest stock index on Earth, and was, until regulators objected, built directly into a trading app as literal confetti. Today on Mind Over Money, Skewness preference, the one bias connecting scratch-off tickets to meme stocks to slot machines, and why your brain cannot tell them apart. Skewness preference is simple. Humans are drawn to bets with a small probability of a huge win, even when the average outcome is a loss. Economists call this positive skewness, a payoff with a long, thin tail stretching toward a jackpot and most of the probability sitting at zero. A lottery ticket is the purest version. Buy one and the likely outcome is losing $1 or $2. But that thin tail, the 1 in 300 million shot at life-changing money, makes the whole bet feel worth it to a huge share of the population, even though the expected value, the average result over a million plays, is solidly negative. Offer people a bet with the identical expected value, but no lottery-shaped tail, just a guaranteed small loss, and they refuse it. It is not the math driving the decision. It is the shape of the payoff. In 1979, psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky published Prospect Theory, the framework that eventually won Kahneman a Nobel Prize. Buried inside it is the finding that explains this whole episode. Humans do not process probability like a calculator. We systematically overweight small probabilities and underweight large ones. A 1% chance of winning does not feel like 1%. It feels bigger, more possible, more real than the math justifies. That distortion peaks at the extremes, the near impossible and the near certain, exactly where lottery jackpots, jackpot slot symbols, and moonshot stock bets all live. Casinos and lottery commissions did not need to read the 1979 paper. They built billion-dollar industries around this distortion decades earlier, purely by trial and error. Here is what state governments do not put on the billboards. Multiple studies, including research from the Consumer Federation of America, find lower-income households spend a substantially larger share of their income on lottery tickets than higher-income households, even when the dollar amounts look similar. Some surveys of the heaviest players find households earning under $30,000 a year, spending several $100s annually on tickets. Real money at that income level. State lotteries generate tens of billions of dollars a year, roughly half returned as prizes, the rest funding state budgets, drawn disproportionately from the people who can least absorb the loss. Economists call this a regressive tax nobody voted on directly, sold with a smile and a jackpot billboard. The exact same bias, dressed in a suit, also runs on Wall Street. In 2009, finance professor Alok Kumar published research in the Journal of Finance asking whether investors gamble in the stock market the way they gamble at the lottery counter. The answer was yes, with data. Kumar found individual investors systematically overweight lottery-type stocks, cheap, volatile shares with a small statistical chance of an enormous short-term spike, identified by a measure called MAX, a stock's biggest daily return over the past month. Investors piled into high MAX stocks, the market's scratch-off tickets. The finding that should worry anyone holding one: stocks with the strongest lottery-like characteristics went on to underperform the market on average, because everyone was already overpaying for that thin shot at a jackpot. The ticket was priced for the dream, not the math. January 2021 gave a live demonstration. GameStop opened the month near $17 and touched $483 within weeks. The technical mechanism, a short squeeze forcing hedge funds to buy back borrowed shares, was real, understood by an early group with an actual thesis. But account opening and order flow data shows most buyers arrived later, chasing a story. Underdog video game store against Wall Street hedge funds, David and Goliath with a ticker symbol. That narrative supercharged an already lottery-shaped payoff, a stock that could 10x in a week or go to zero, until buying it felt righteous instead of risky. The same year, Dogecoin, invented as a literal joke, rose over 12,000% on memes and momentum alone. Neither asset needed fundamentals. Both needed a thin, exciting tail and a story that made buying feel like joining something. Go back further, to the 1950s and psychologist B.F. Skinner, who conditioned pigeons to peck a lever for food. Pigeons rewarded on a fixed, predictable schedule pecked steadily and stopped quickly once rewards ended. Pigeons rewarded on a variable ratio schedule, an unpredictable number of pecks between rewards, pecked far more often and kept pecking long after rewards stopped entirely. Unpredictability is more addictive than reliability. The modern slot machine is a variable ratio reinforcement schedule wearing flashing lights, engineered to deliver unpredictable, skewed payouts, mostly small losses with a thin tail of big wins, at the exact tempo that keeps a human pecking the spin button longest. Casino researchers went further. Neuroscientist Luke Clark's research, published in the journal Neuron, used brain imaging to show a near miss on a slot machine, two matching symbols and a third bumping just past the line, activates reward circuitry almost as strongly as an actual win. Even though the player receives nothing, slot machine software is engineered to deliver more near misses than random chance would produce alone. Because a near miss does not register as a loss. It registers as almost the most motivating word in gambling. Trading apps did not have to reinvent this. Robinhood's original app burst animated confetti across the screen after every trade execution, win or lose. A design element Massachusetts regulators specifically cited before it was removed in 2021. The reward signal was decoupled from the outcome. That is the near-miss effect delivered through a phone. The newest version has an acronym, 0DTE, options contracts that expire the same day they are traded. By 2023, per CBOE data, contracts expiring within 24 hours accounted for roughly half of all S&P 500 index options volume, a share that barely existed 5 years earlier. A 0DTE option is structurally close to a lottery ticket. You pay a small, defined amount. The likely outcome is it expires worthless within hours. But the payoff, if the index moves your way fast enough, can be many multiples of what you paid. A genuine thin-tailed jackpot, tradable from a phone in a coffee line, refreshed every trading day instead of twice a week like Powerball. Regulators and researchers studying retail 0DTE activity describe it in explicitly lottery-like terms, small stakes and long-shot odds. Repeated daily, the exact reinforcement tempo Skinner's pigeons responded to best. Kumar's follow-up research found even sophisticated investors show measurably more lottery-seeking behavior during economic distress and uncertainty. Exactly when a thin shot at a big win feels most urgent, and exactly when a household can least afford the loss. This is not a character flaw. It is standard cognitive equipment running the same probability weighting math in a hedge fund manager's brain as in a convenience store lottery line, because both brains evolved this wiring long before lottery tickets or options contracts existed. Knowing the mechanism helps you build defenses around it. It does not delete it, so 4 defenses. The same spirit as our FOMO episode. Work with the wiring, not against it. First, a hard-capped fund budget, a small fixed percentage of your finances set aside for long-shot bets, sized so a total loss changes nothing about your life. Second, a mandatory delay on any purchase driven by a hot story or a friend's win, because real opportunities do not expire in an afternoon. Third, before buying anything with a lottery-shaped payoff, say the actual odds and the actual expected value out loud. Naming the math breaks some of probability weighting's spell. Fourth, get suspicious of any product engineered to feel exciting on every single use, confetti, near-miss sounds, streak counters, because engineered excitement is a signal the payoff is being sold to your wiring, not your calculator. Let's land this. The $113 billion Americans spend on lottery tickets, the meme stocks that ran on story instead of fundamentals, the slot machine tuned in a lab, and the zero DTE option expiring in hours are the same bias wearing 4 costumes. Your brain overweights a thin, exciting tail and underweights the much larger, duller mass of probability sitting at 0, and entire industries have spent a century getting extremely good at building products around that exact miscalculation. You cannot delete the wiring. You can decide in advance how much of your money it gets to touch. This is education, not financial advice, so do your own research and talk to a licensed professional before acting. Next time on The Big Picture, what actually happens to your job when AI gets cheap, task by task, with the wage data to back it up. Subscribe so you don't miss it.